So my topic is granulomatous versus non-granulomatous uveitis. The classification of granulomatous and non-granulomatous is pathological as well as clinical. The presence of epithelioid cells, giant cells, make the inflammation granulomatous. Or on the clinical examination, if you see large KPs, mutton fat KPs, or iris nodules, or in the vitreous, very large snowballs, opacities, thick vascular sheathing, choroidal granulomas, those signs will indicate the inflammation is granulomatous. But remember, the granulomatous and non-granulomatous are interchangeable. The patient of granulomatous disease, if it comes at early stage of the disease, KPs can be non-granulomatous. Or if the patient is already on treatment, or if you start the patient on treatment, the granulomatous KPs can become non-granulomatous. But why it is important for us clinician to differentiate between granulomatous and non-granulomatous? Yes, it is important because it narrows down the list of differential diagnosis. So let us take a case example. A 34-year-old male complains of blurring of visions and floaters since past 2 years. He received multiple short courses of steroid, post-acceptance injection, but only temporary relief. And this is he had grade 2 vitritis, and this is how the angiography looks like. There's a diffuse perivascular leakage, and in the periphery you can see the CNP areas suggestive of vasculitis. So with this history and this picture, we have multiple differential diagnoses: His disease, TB vasculitis, Behçet disease, multiple sclerosis, and so on. But if I give you a very important clue from the anterior segment examination that the patient has got non-granulomatous inflammation, that the patient has got hypopion and patient has got non-granulomatous KPs, then all the causes of granulomatous uveitis will go down in the list, including His disease and viral, as we know that hypopion is not a feature of that. So we are left with Behçet disease, leptospirosis, and syphilis. So now give appropriate questions to the patients, do appropriate investigations, and you will hit the diagnosis. So this patient had history of orogenital ulcer and was positive for HLA-B51, proving the diagnosis of Behçet disease. And this is how the large granulomatous mutton fat KPs looks like. They looks like exactly same as the real mutton fat in my tiffin box. So that day I was convinced that somebody has found most appropriate term to describe those KPs. The patient also has got Busaka nodules, multiple Busaka nodules. One has to use appropriate illumination to demonstrate these Busaka nodules. The patient has got 2+ reaction, granulomatous KPs. The patient also has shoulder pain. Although his all investigations were negative, the rheumatologist suspected psychosis, which was also our first differential diagnosis in this case. Whereas in non-granulomatous, the KPs will look like this. There will be just endothelial dusting, very small in size. The patient also has got fibrinous reaction. If you look carefully, that whitish thing is not a Busaka nodule, it's a thick fibrin sitting on the iris. This patient has got back pain and is positive for HLA-B27, and the pneumologist has confirmed the diagnosis spondylitis. So this is how the granulomatous and non-granulomatous anterior uveitis looks like. Granulomatous uveitis sometimes can have large KPs, but they can be pigmented and can be associated with keratitis as well. So in this case, the patient had herpes zoster ophthalmicus and keratouveitis. But if you notice that the patient has got not only anterior segment finding, but posterior segment as well. The patient has got multiple hypopigmented choroidal lesion. If you compare his left eye, you can obviously make out there is something wrong with the right eye. Although the OCT scan does not show any choroidal elevation, probably the patient had, when the patient had first attack of zoster keratouveitis, that time the patient had active choroidal lesions, which is now resolved. So remember, zoster keratouveitis not only cause granulomatous anterior uveitis, but it can have granulomatous choroidal involvement as well. So these are the two cases referred by our PGs, thinking that Busaka nodule or dislocation of the lens. The first patient, if you look at these lesions very carefully, you can see those extensions which are not typical of Busaka. They are the least nodules. The anterior chamber was quiet and there were no KPs. Whereas in the second case, the patient had coconut injury and was referred as dislocation of the anterior lens. But if you see this lesion, it is not a lens, it's a fibrin ball. So I agree that many times a differentiation between the granulomatous and non-granulomatous is very difficult, but confocal helps in such cases. So as you can see here, granulomatous uveitis, confocal can show smooth rounded borders, whereas dendritic and stipple KPs can be seen in non-granulomatous. Even among non-granulomatous, you can differentiate Behçet KPs and ankylosing spondylitis KPs. Not only KPs, but you can also differentiate the mascarates. So those two patients presented as a non-granulomatous information. They came with diffuse non-granulomatous KPs. The first patient, as you can see here, there is the confocal is showing bright centered KP. He was a case of leukemia, whereas in the second case, there is a floral pattern on the confocal, and he was a case of lymphoma. Those are the Berlin nodule, the sarcoidosis in the angle, and the second case is lepra pulse. As you can see, the lepra pulse are there not only on the iris but also in the angle. So as you go in the posterior segment, the classification of granulomatous and non-granulomatous becomes a little bit dicey. But still, the large vitreous snowballs can be taken as a sign of granulomatous inflammation, or if you find obvious granuloma like in Toxocara, it's a granulomatous inflammation. In the absence of pars planitis or large snowballs, if the snowballs are very small in size, the inflammation is non-granulomatous. The FFA helps to differentiate the vitritis if it is active or not, but cannot differentiate between granulomatous or non-granulomatous. Isolated choroiditis, isolated retinitis, or isolated vasculitis, again, its differentiation becomes a little difficult. But most of the uveitis with choroidal stromal involvement, they are granulomatous. Granuloma in the retina is slightly rare. I know about only 1 or 2 cases of sarcoidosis reported with granuloma in the retina, whereas thick vascular sheathing can be sign of granulomatous uveitis as we see in TB and sarcoidosis. So as you know, there are less specific clinical distinguishing features as you go in the posterior segment. So many times we have to diagnose the interview first and then differentiate between granulomatous and non-granulomatous. Or else the patient comes with obvious choroidal granuloma like this. So this was a doctor patient, elderly gentleman coming from UK. He also visited North America. And as you can see here, there is a large choroidal elevations, as well as he has got one scar at the macula. He was treated for anterior uveitis only. The borderline 1-2 and borderline quantiferon. So patient was put initially on ATT and steroid, but with the steroid inflammation worsened, as well as he had some skin lesion which he demonstrated later on, which also worsened with steroids. And the biopsy from those skin lesions reveals histoplasma. After starting the IV antifungal and low-dose steroid, the inflammation started decreasing. But again, after decreasing the steroid doses, the inflammation worsened with scleral involvement. So here also confocal, you can see that there are some cystic lesion sitting on the endothelium, which perhaps could be toxoplasma cyst, histoplasma cyst, but we are not sure because the size of these lesions were larger. So after a prolonged course of antifungals and maintenance dose of steroids, the inflammation gradually came under control. So remember, histoplasma can also cause necrotizing granulomatous inflammation. So concluding my talk, the differentiation of granulomatous versus non-granulomatous is very important because it narrows down the list of differential diagnoses. Most of the non-granulomatous entities can have acute presentation, whereas most of the granulomatous entities can have chronic presentation. The confocal helps to differentiate between granulomatous as well as non-granulomatous, as well as it can rule out masquerades. Remember to rule out infections in both the condition and remember masquerades always.